Zara, there are 39 participants today,
Yeah.
and we've muted everybody.
Mhm.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand. If you want to say something, raise your hand, and then you can unmute, and then we can have that discussion. There is a chat box. If you have any queries, please put it on the chat. I think everybody can read the chat then. You've enabled the chat, na, Zara?
Yes. Chat is enabled.
Okay, all right. So any questions, put on the chat, because Zara will be explaining and she'll be busy talking and we'll be having a discussion. I will keep a watch on the chat box and then I will ask questions.
Ma'am,
All right.
there are some burning questions that have been put on the document that had been shared. I was
Okay,
wondering if you
so,
could start with them.
okay, let me have a look.
Okay. There was one that was shared, which was about, preparing the kids and a backward planning from DP so that we know this is, if you're referring to this one.
Yeah. The questions, I'll do one thing, I'll just copy paste those in the chat.
Okay. People are still joining. Okay, so there are a couple of things that I wanted to share because I thought that this was, there are other MYP, English Language and Literature meetings that will be taking place as well. So I thought that since this is the first of the few that will be happening, so let's start with the basics. Let's start from the unit plans and let's see, how well, let's just go over the foundation of what we are supposed to be teaching, right? So I prepared a little slide, a small presentation that I'll be sharing with you. Okay, I hope you can see this.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So first of all, the reason why I added this, I know most of you, you're all aware of the stuff that's probably going to be explained in this presentation, but I just wanted to go over all of it because I feel that we, especially I for one, we forget about the basics, and we forget that this is where we started from and this is how we need to prepare our kids, because if we understand the foundation, we'll be able to better prepare our kids for the e-assessments, right? So first of all, because this is a recurrent question, often people ask that, lesson plans and unit plans, are they the same or not? So a lesson plan is basically like a lessons plan, whatever you're going to explain to the kids in a single lesson, right? A unit plan is different. Your entire team needs to participate in the planning of a unit, because this needs to happen. This is going to help you not just in preparing the students for the I see a hand raised.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is this not the other way around? The slide shows.
Because we'll be focusing on the unit plan.
Okay.
This is why.
All right.
Yeah, we'll be focusing on the unit plan. So our focus is going to be unit plan because we want to see how we want to see the progression of the kids, right?
I think the person who's spoken just now, she has told it right. If you're looking at the heading, Sarah, the lesson plan and unit plan headings have swapped, I think.
Oh,
Because,
I'm so sorry.
It's the other way around, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, so a unit plan is actually, we should know, a unit plan is something that is going to be done not just by one person. And like you need to have your section head involved, you need to have your head of department, or perhaps your MYP coordinator as well. This is how we go about it, because they tell us, and we also together, it's a collaborative effort, we also together to understand where our kids are and where they need to be. And for that, in order to achieve that goal, what do we need to do? Okay, so for that, we have 3 sections of our unit plan. First is the written, then the taught, and the assessed. The purpose of the written curriculum is that the identification of a framework of what is worth knowing. Can someone explain it? Because I'll be asking you to write certain things as well later on. How can we differentiate between the written, taught, and assessed? What is the difference?
What I understand is that essentially the written curriculum is, the books you will be teaching, identifying the content, the skills you will be developing. So everything that goes into your curriculum overview document, that is your written curriculum. Taught will include, it will include the activities that you do in the classroom, the skills that you develop. All that will come into the taught curriculum, because it's not necessary that everything that is written is, or rather, taught is less than the written. I understand that. And assessed is, of course, we assess them on the 4 criteria that we have. Assessment is only that. It has little connection with what is taught. You can be teaching an entire novel, but assessing them only on certain aspects.
Aspects of it, certainly, absolutely.
So I
So,
would like to add to that, if possible. Yeah. So the written curriculum here in our case would be our course outlines. So you have unit-wise information, what you plan, whether you're teaching prose, poetry, drama, or even film, videos. So that would be your written curriculum. Your subject group overviews would also come under this. The taught curriculum, like she rightly mentioned, was it's all to do with the content, the skills that you're building. And when it comes to the assessed curriculum, you can have diagnostics, you could have formatives as well as summatives within the unit.
absolutely. So I was thank you, Tracy. I was going to mention that, your formative assessments and your summative assessments both are part of your the assessed curriculum, and the formative assessments are not just any written thing, but it could be like your oral activity as well. Anything, any game, any activity that you carry out in the class, that could also be part of your formative assessment. Now,
Essentially, sorry, may I just ask one question?
Yeah, Kriti.
So when we're saying that formative assessment, it can also be a diagnostic, meaning it doesn't have to be marked. It can be for the learning of the teacher as well. All that will come under assessed, curriculum, is it?
Okay, if I have to answer this, formative assessments are assessments for learning. Okay,
Yes.
it is for you to give feedback to the students.
Absolutely.
Okay, and summative assessments are assessments of learning. That means you have taught, now they have to do the test. You cannot help them. You cannot give them feedback on that assessment. So if you are going to teach a particular skill in English, okay, which is required for the summative, then you have to give certain tasks for the students to learn the skill, okay, and where you can give feedback on that skill. So that would be formative. So wherever you are going to give feedback, that would be formative. But if the students are doing it on their own without teacher help, and you are assessing for what they have learned, that would be summative. So it's a good idea. See, you have exit forms as formative. You have many different strategies for formative. But then I cannot put all of those or record all of those. So what we also suggest that in case you want to take a summative assessment and you are going to assess, suppose, analysis, then you have to give a formative task, okay, with that particular strand which you want the student to know, because the student doesn't know how to analyze. So how are you
Okay.
going to teach that skill unless and until you teach that skill and give feedback on it? How is the student going to analyze a summative assessment? So at that time when you are doing the formative, okay, in order to give feedback and in order to give a test, it is a good idea to have the strands in your formative assessment.
Okay.
Just doing
Great.
a quiz or anything, that is also formative, but that is to for us to know whether the students have understood or not. But whether the
So what?
student has got that skill or not, and when we are giving them feedback to make them prepared to do the summative, that is also formative, right? Such formatives, it
Right.
is a
Thank you
good
very.
idea to give them through the strands. This is what I have told my teachers when I have been training them.
I understood that summative is like the sum of the knowledge. So, collecting everything that you've taught to the students and then, then assessing them based on what you have done, how you have developed
Right.
their understanding. Okay.
So I'd like to add here, a formative is also something that you're doing on the go. The learning is still taking place. It's not consolidated as yet. So it's also on your discretion whether you want to grade all the formatives or you just want, data for your personal record and you just want to see how the learning is happening. So that's also one aspect to look at it. It's not really mandatory. It's not really necessary to reach a milestone to be able to gauge their learning. You can do it on the go as well.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so I was thinking that we'll make this a little interactive. If you're up for it, if you want to, we can start working on a little outline for a unit. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay. So based on the topic list, I'll share the topic list with you. Okay. Right, so this is the topic list which has been given to us by the IB. And if you want, I just thought, you could select the content and a topic on your own, decide something, and then let's work on creating a unit plan. Okay, so we can all do our individual work. You can select any topic. Just remember that these are topics. They're not, and they can be found in any text. So you have to understand that, if you look at them, for instance, culture or identity, you can find this particular topic in almost about any text, in almost about any literature that's been written. So
can we say these are themes that can be explored through different content?
yes, they're mostly, they work like themes, but this is like the list that's been given to us, right? So most of the times, like the question that comes to me is that how do we know? This is an endless list. There's too much on that list. So how do we prepare our kids? The best answer that so far I've found is that we can look at where the point from where DP starts. Okay, because MYP and DP, we need to bridge this gap. So we need to do a backward planning for the DP. We have to go into the detail of everything that's done in the DP, but we can have an idea of what is it that they're learning in DP. So once we know that this is where we need to, this is the point where our kids need to reach. So if you want, you can pick any topic from this list. And I'd like you to select one key concept out of the 4 key concepts that are given to us. You all have access to these files through the Google Drive.
Yeah.
If you want me to share it on the screen, or is it okay?
No, we're aware of them.
Okay. Okay. So the key concepts, we have 4 key concepts. The detail of these concepts is given in the guide, in the language and literature guide as well. Whenever I'm planning, at least I go through the detail and I look at the different words, especially that are used in the definition that's been provided to us by the IB. So, and whatever, like if I'm selecting a certain text and I feel that certain words from the definition are coinciding with the content or with the topic or with the text that I want to teach, then based on that, I pick that key concept. Obviously, it has to be the central idea because you're creating the central idea. But this is just a way of understanding which key concept or which related concept you're supposed to select. So therefore, you have communication, you have creativity, you have connections and perspective. And the detail of each one of these is given in the guide. So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to select a key concept based on the topic that you've selected. Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
How do we share that?
So in the thinking that you can all send your the final versions on the Google Drive. If you want, you can upload them there. I've come across several unit plans that often use more than 2 related concepts. Now perhaps Ms. Ashika can guide us on this, but I was informed by several teachers and the facilitators as well for the workshops. They said that you should not pick more than 2 related concepts. Well,
Should any particular reason why that?
I think Lenny wants to ask. She's raised her hand. Lenny?
Hey, I definitely agree. I think putting that into the statement of inquiry and having the big picture, just having like one key concept and 1 or 2 related concepts works well. That doesn't mean that in your unit you're not going to touch on those other things. Same with when we're looking at the global context, we choose one as our main like lens for a unit, but your units are going to touch on all of them at all points. I think sometimes people worry they want to document everything in their unit, the same way that people end up ticking a million different ATLs. It's the same with related concepts. It should be the big driving force, big picture of your unit, more than just ones that are touched on. Hope that helps.
I think there is still a discrepancy over there when it comes to picking up more than 1 key concept, because when I attended my workshop, I did for MYP coordinators, they didn't really state it anywhere that you can't choose more than 1. At times, the connections are so obvious that it is fairly okay to explore more than 1 related concept, especially in the later years of MYP, such as in MYP 4 and 5, when you really have to go through literally everything. Because again, there are schools out there who are not really offering. There are examples of schools in Pakistan where I live that they're not offering MYP 1, 2, 3, and they're only offering MYP 4 and 5. So in such cases, they are bound to explore all the related concept in just 2 years time. So in that case, I think it makes sense that you go through it and you put them in there and try to have the explorations linked to those.
Okay, can I ask you something? Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
I want to know that you have mentioned already that we can pick sometimes more than 2 related concepts. Okay,
but so more than one. Somebody said more than one.
More than 1. I mean 2. You can also use 2. So if we are picking 2 for 1 unit, so isn't it going to create a kind of confusion, because there you have to pick the related concept according to related concept according to the key concept. So it really create a kind of a confusion while I'm planning the unit?
No,
further exploration.
it depends what type of content you have chosen for the unit. Like for interdisciplinary unit, at times I think it works fairly decently well. Again,
how about the if I am taking only for my language, not IDU? If I'm not planning it, connecting it to the IDU, only keeping it for my language and literature, so is it not going to create any kind of confusion, or is it not restricting me for the exploration?
Again, I think that depends on the length and the content. And yeah, sure, go ahead.
Oh. I see a raised hand. Lenny, you want to answer this?
Sure, go ahead.
I don't mind. I think I mean, it depends. For me, the related concepts aren't linked to the key concepts. For me, I put the global context, key concepts, and related concepts together for that statement of inquiry, and that's my driving force of the unit. I nearly always have one key concept and two related concepts. So I think it doesn't cause confusion at all. Personally, maybe in other subjects it does.
Tracy, do you want to say something about how do you plan?
Yeah, so most importantly, you have to figure out the topic that you are going to be addressing, because like Zara mentioned as well, you've got these suggested topics that are they shouldn't. So you could break it down right up to grade 6. Once you know your topic, it's easy to connect it to one key concept. You bring in two related concepts. I find that it just unit more direction when you focus on that. And you make automatic connections to the global context that you've chosen that way. So that's how I go about planning the unit. And the statement of inquiry is the most important aspect of the unit, because through that statement, the students themselves will begin to understand the relationship between the concepts provided.
Okay.
And also to add to unit planning, the statement of inquiry, the assessments and the ATLs have to triangulate together. So if you're going to have too many concepts and too many related concepts, then it will be I feel that it will be a diluted unit.
Yes,
if I have to drive it for 8 to 9 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I actually also mentioned, that if we are picking more than one key concept, so it may, drive us to another direction rather than dragging into the same, to aim into the more constructive way, to help the children to aim from the exploration based on the statement of query that we are, trying to look for. So to me, this is what I understand, that it is better to stick to one key concept. I mean, what you guys suggest, I would definitely appreciate if you tell that it is okay, or because actually in MYP this is my second year, so I have a long way to go and I'm still learning. So I keep on asking a question, and I'll be asking a lot. Zara, hi. I will be asking a lot.
That's fine.
For me, two things. When I first worked in an IB school, the director told me at the beginning, it will take you at least a year to understand the IB, which I agree with. I think we're all always learning. Like, there's no perfect IB teacher. We're always learning and trying to improve our practice every year. As I said before, I nearly always have one key concept and then two related concepts, but you might find one that fits really well. You might end up having two key concepts or only one related concept. I tend to take my concepts and put them directly into the inquiry question. So I will have as my factual, say it's systems, what is a system? My conceptual, how is our school like a system? And debatable, the most important part of the school, the students. So I'm actually using scaffolding the key and related concepts directly into the inquiry questions as well. It helps give it substance and helps content for teaching, right?
Okay.
Tracy, yes, you wanted to say something?
Tracy?
Yeah, just to add on, maybe for example, like when Lenny mentioned that it should be well directed, it should help bring about those connections within students. We have perspective as a key concept, and one of the related concepts is also point of view, self-expression. So maybe you pick on similar related concepts as well, so that the students create that holistic understanding of the concept.
Absolutely, I agree with that. This is something that I do as well. I see that if one or two of them, they're coinciding, then I try to do the same, that I find them, I try to look for them in the related concepts. And also, to be honest, personally, this is what I do. If I'm teaching a novel, I do not try to cover everything from the novel. It'll be too difficult. And
Yes, that's true.
Whatever key concept and whatever related concepts, I personally I pick only two related concepts. So whatever related or key concepts you have selected, you need to move around those only and keep it focused. And whatever central idea you have selected, explore that in detail with the students, but then don't get them confused, because otherwise it creates a lot of confusion. That's what I do, and that's what's helped me stay focused. You might disagree, but yeah. Okay, so do we have the key concepts and related concepts selected?
I've put my unit plan on that document. I don't know how good, but well.
I'm sure they're good. Okay.
Just gonna add one more thing. There's no reason why, if you were kind of debating having extra key concepts, related concepts, there's no reason why you couldn't have a discussion at the end of the unit or the end of reading a book where you say, okay, let's look at these other concepts from our subject, or these other related concepts from our subject, and use them for a discussion, or get them to pick out one from the list which they think is important to the novel and discuss it too. So you can still build those in, but again, stay focused on the main big picture.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Again, whenever you're selecting a global context, I would recommend that go through the explorations as well, each one of them in detail, because there are certain words. What I normally do in the explorations, in the related concepts, in the key concepts, there are definitions given. And what's really helped create a good unit plan, an effective unit plan, is to look for the key words in those definitions. If they are in line with what you're trying to teach, then I think you've done your job. Because a good unit plan is always going to help you get better results in the end. So yes, Tracy, you want to say something?
No, I hadn't raised my hand. Nothing.
Okay. So this is what I do. So if you have a list of the explorations that have been given by the IB based on the global context, then it's better to just stay focused on those and select a global context based on that. Earlier we had this discussion on adding too many ADLs or objective strands. Again, I would say that do not get confused with adding too many ATLs, especially if you're planning for MYP 1, 2, or 3, because again, stay focused. Whatever ATL strand you've selected, you need to ensure that the students have really understood it. They have really developed their skill around that. And we can ensure that through the skill development through the objective strands.
I would want to add something to that. Tracy, would you want to explain how we decided what ATLs, we had a separate document when we had the workshop with Ms. Gillian about the different ATLs, and then we said which criteria strand goes aligns with which ATL skills. Would you want to explain how we did
I
that?
thought about that. So one of the sessions we had as an in-school workshop was where we took all the objectives, so ABCD, analyzing, organizing, producing text, and using language, and we linked them strand-wise to the ATL skill. So a common example would be for analysis, where they have to pick out the content, the context, they have to infer. You link it to reading critically, and for comprehension, which is critical thinking skill for the ATLs. So as a practice, maybe as a department, you can initially start with dividing your criteria up and have a bank of which skills would be for organizing. So when it comes to, let's say, note-taking skills, effective note-taking skills, I would probably use just that one skill with grade 6 when I'm teaching them a novel. So every chapter that we move along, I'm looking at how they organize their own mind maps, their character maps. It could also be a story so far, summary with bullet points. So I pick different ways to teach them note-taking skills. It could just be that one skill because grade 6 is learning. It takes time for them to pick it up. So a good idea would be to take your objectives individually, strand-wise, and then link them to possible ATL skills that exist.
Absolutely. In our school, we created this table. I don't know if everyone else is also using a similar, structure. We have, I'll just share this with you if it's okay.
No. Yeah, hello?
Yes.
Yes. Zara, I just want to ask you something. One thing I was just, open of my unit plans actually that I did last year, and I just want to make sure that I said that I'm going to ask you a lot of questions. So this is one of the questions that I'm going to ask you. I just had one unit about the name I gave it, War and the World. Okay. So that was about, I picked up the key concept as connection, and related concept was a point of view, and also the structure. So I basically picked up there The Mice and the Man. Okay. That novel I actually picked up, and I kind of relate to the perspective of the people of that era when the Great Depression was going on. So I just to know from every one of you here is joining that whether the related concept was really well to do with the novel that I picked up for MYP year 3. So your like observation.
You pick connection as the key concept and point of view and structure as the related concepts, right?
Yes, yes. And I picked up the novel like Mice and the Man.
Of Mice and Men.
Yes, for MYP year 3.
For me, I'm not obviously a Langan Lit teacher, but that is one of the books that in England everyone studies for GCSE. And for me, point of view is something that really resonates and makes me remember the book, like thinking about kind of the naive point of view of the character Lenny compared to George. So I think, even when I reflect back on that book, that's one of the main things I remember. So I think that's a perfect related concept to pick.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lenny.
Okay, thank you, Lenny. So this is the table that I was talking about. What we do is that we take the skill, the cluster, and then the ATL specific skill, and then connect it to the objectives, the objective strands, and then use a certain formative assessment. Now, these formative assessments, they do not have to be recorded, not all of them, but you can use them as well. So this table really helped all of the teachers here at our school because it helped us give, a structure to what we were teaching. So if you want, this is something that you can use as well. Tracy, is this the kind of connection that you were talking about? Like if you have...
Exactly. So we have, just like you've mentioned, thinking skills or creative on the left-hand side. We actually have the objectives on the left, and on the right-hand side column, we just have all the little ATL strands that would work with that particular objective. So it's very similar to what you have here.
Okay.
Can you both share it with us somewhere, link for the other teachers to refer to, please?
Yeah,
Sure.
I would love that.
I also tried to share 2 similar links I have, an interactive unit planner and then ATLs by subject, but for some reason on the iPad I can only send direct messages to Zara. So maybe Zara, if you can send them out to everyone. It just, the iPad is a little bit glitchy.
Okay.
That will be really great.
If you can just share the link on the Google Drive that we have shared with everybody, so they can just click over there and can have a view access, for that.
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Zara.
Thanks, Tracy.
All right. Okay. So I don't think we have enough time. Do we have enough time? Because we were running out of time.
Really 4 minutes.
No, we have to.
Okay, great. Now the reason why there were questions regarding preparing the kids for the e-assessments and the backward planning and how to better equip them with learning and enabling them to attempt the questions well in the exam. So when we're talking about that, I feel that the unit planning through MYP 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's very important, because there, when you actually help the students understand the key concepts in detail through different texts or the related concepts or the global context and their connection with the different objective strands, that really helps the students in attempting the final questions in their e-assessments. If you notice, I don't know if all of you have gone through the e-assessments, but there are 3 tasks. The first task is analyzing, the second is producing producing literary text, and the third is producing non-literary text. The first one, before all the text, they've given an outline, the instructions, and they mention the different key concepts that will be explored, that the students should explore while attempting certain questions. Yes, Lenny?
Can we restart, because just 2 minutes are left?
Do you want to restart it, or do you want it to be on a different time? Because we just have 40 minutes sessions here.
I'm good with either. I mean, I was just wondering because
I think
Zara,
we
with me.
Yeah,
you can restart if you want.
Can we sit again in some other time?
Some other time?
The 40 minutes. Yeah, I mean, like tomorrow, if you just schedule it like for tomorrow.
Okay, so we will reschedule a meeting again. So those who are here right now, we will send you the link again. Okay.
Okay.
That
would be great.
Yeah, all right.
And if you
Thank you.
send me the
Yeah.
video of part 1, I'll upload it, so now people who haven't been here can still join in part 2.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you
Thanks.
all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you, Zara,
Thank
for
you.
having
Thank you, everybody. It was a nice discussion. Thank you. Thank you, Zara. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.